up with that. So yeah, we're happy to have Kelly, Amber, and Camille here to do our demonstration, and we'll go ahead and turn the time over to them.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for being here. We're going to get started. All right, so today we're going to be talking a little bit about healthy snacking and how we can incorporate foods from all types of food groups into our daily lives. So our presentation today is called Snack Attack, and yeah, we'll be talking about how to build balanced creations for every type of craving, whether it's sweet, salty, etc. My name is Kelly, this is Camille and Amber, and we are some of the BYU dietetic interns, and we are so excited to be with you guys today. Alrighty, so to start off, we want to engage in a little discussion. If you guys could turn to someone near you, next to you, and talk about these questions. How often do you snack on a typical day? What are some of your favorite snacks? And what does a balanced snack mean to you? We'll give you guys a couple seconds to chat. Alrighty. Did you guys have enough time? Do you need another minute or two? Or all right, looks like we're good. All right. So I want to hear, how often do you guys snack a day? 1 to 2 times a day, raise your hand. Okay, we've got a couple. 3 to 4 times a day. Got a couple, all right. 4 or more. Snacks are great, you guys. No shame. We love snacks. Awesome. Okay, so we've got a lot of people who snack. I think I saw almost everyone raise a hand saying they snacked at least once or twice a day. Um, what are some of your favorite snacks? I want to hear, you can share your neighbor's idea or one of your personal favorite snacks. I want to hear a couple. Yeah. Apples. Those are good. Okay. Sugar. All right. That's a good one. All right. Cookies. Nuts, cheese, dried cranberries. Those are good, you guys. You're good snackers. Awesome. And then I want to hear 2 or 3 responses for what does a balanced snack mean to you? Yeah, go for it. Carbs and protein. All right. And yeah, you feel good about eating it. Yeah. That's a great way to keep a balanced snack. Any other ideas? No? All right. Well, awesome. Thank you guys for your feedback. Those are all great responses, great snacks, great definitions of balanced. We're going to go through our presentation today and get more into what that balance can look like and some more snack ideas to help and boost your snacking.
Yeah, so our objective today is to talk about how to make balanced, healthy snacks, and we want this discussion to be pretty grounded in research. So it's not just like our opinion, but what the science says. So to do that, we'll be talking about the prevalence of snacking, which we kind of touched on a little bit, and then the importance of snacking, how to create balance in our snacks, the science of satiety, so how can we feel more full and satisfied from our snacking, and ideas for specific cravings. And then we'll talk about portion control and practical tips to incorporate healthier snacks into your diet.
All right, so a lot of you raised your hands when we asked how often we all snack, which is great. Snacks are really important for balanced meals and just to keep our satiety up, which we'll talk a little bit about. There was a research study that we looked at, and about 84 of the participants reported snacking at least once a day in between meals. So we know that snacking is really common in our day-to-day life, and it's also important to be able to choose healthy choices, which we'll talk a little bit about today, because snacks can contribute about 20% of our daily intake in calories. So it's really important to be able to choose nutritious foods.
Alrighty, throughout this presentation, we're going to share several myths and facts that you may have heard. The first being that it's better to skip snacking entirely to cut calories, which, as it turns out, is not true. Skipping snacks can actually lead to more overeating at meals, leading to more consumption of calories. And so regular and healthy snacks can help you maintain a steady level of energy, a steady level of fullness, and reduce cravings so you can avoid that overeating later on in the day or at meal times.
Yeah, so it can totally backfire and we don't want that. So snacks really are important. You might have thought you were coming to this presentation today to hear us be like, stop snacking, but snacks are actually great because they give us permission to listen to our hunger cues. They help us avoid digestive discomfort from eating like really large meals all at once, rather than small and simple meals throughout the day. They ease symptoms of acid reflux and heartburn for those who struggle with that. They improve energy throughout the day. They can be used to incorporate nutrient-dense foods, just like Kelly talked about. If they're contributing about 20% of our calories, we want to make sure those are really quality calories that we're getting. And they're just delicious. I mean, many of us love snacks, and I think that's a really important factor. It can be a great mood booster and energy booster throughout the day. Are there any reasons any of you have found snacking to be important or beneficial in your diet? You can just raise your hand or shout them out. Yeah, go ahead. Yes. Yes, I definitely get hangry when I'm hungry, so that's a great benefit. Anyone else? Yes. Yeah, much easier to spread them out throughout the day, being more strategic about it. I love that. Any other thoughts? Yes.
Best way to solve this problem, but sometimes the snack would not agree.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and sometimes we need that. I mean, that's just the reality. Like we have busy lives and sometimes we need that boost throughout the day. That's totally valid.
All right, so what are some common challenges you all face when choosing healthy snacks? What are some barriers? Mhm. Okay, so convenience, yeah. All right, anything else? Any other barriers that you commonly face? We'll start in the back. For sure. Yeah, it takes some time, preparation, planning. Yeah. Did you have a comment? Exactly. And we're going to go through a couple ideas and suggestions for different types of cravings when you are craving something salty like chips. So that's great. Any other comments? Yeah, those are very common barriers that we all experience as humans, right? It's hard to find time with busy lives. It's hard to plan out meals, prep, but we'll be talking about some tips that might help incorporate some healthy snacks into our lifestyles.
Alrighty, our next myth versus fact. The myth is that all snacks are unhealthy and processed, when in reality, many snacks are nutrient dense. We talked about getting more vegetables and fruit in during the day, spreading it out through snacks. It's a great way to do it. Yogurt, nuts, whole grains, they're all very great snacks. And it's about choosing the right type of snacks. And what I want to say with this as well is processed, it's kind of a buzzword. We've all heard it, right? But the thing with processed is it's a scale. You chopping up an apple is technically processing an apple. So don't be afraid of the word processed, and those snacks we love that are more processed on the more processed end, like chips and candies and everything, they can have a place in a healthy balanced snack as well. So just keep that in mind as we go through. We're going to talk about that more. But yeah, not all,
Not all processing
yeah,
is
not all
bad.
processed things are bad.
Yeah, we're not here to tell you that you have to eat like only whole foods because we know that that's just not the reality for many of our life situations. So we want to talk about how to take what we're currently doing in our snacking practices and just tweak it a bit to make it a little bit more balanced and a little bit more healthy. So we have our snack hack up here. First, we're going to talk about the difference between energy density and nutrient density, probably terms that you've heard before. But energy density simply means that something is very high in calories. And that doesn't mean it's a good thing or a bad thing. It's just how the amount of calories and energy that's in that food. Whereas nutrient density is referring to more of the macro and micronutrients that our body needs. A snack or food that's high in nutrients will be nutrient dense. So we want as many as possible of our snacks to be nutrient dense, and they may also be energy dense. Up here, I have a picture of an avocado, which is very energy dense, also very nutrient dense. So it's just important to kind of look at foods and think, this is giving me a lot of energy, but is it really giving my body the nutrients that it needs to keep building and to be at optimal health? So along with nutrient density, just talking about the research, the American Heart Association reports that eating frequent nutrient-dense snacks may help lower total and LDL cholesterol, that cholesterol that you may have heard of as like the bad cholesterol that contributes to heart disease, and lower the risk of obesity and improve heart health. So we're looking for those nutrient-dense snacks, and they may be energy-dense, and that's okay. So here's our snack hack to create balance. Somebody mentioned protein and carbs, and that really is what we're looking at in balanced, and healthy fat is also a bonus. And with those complex carbs, what we mean by that is we're looking for sources of fiber in our carbohydrates. And we'll talk about why that's important.
All right, so to go along and give some examples of different protein options or different complex carbs or fiber containing foods, we might be using those terms interchangeably in this presentation. And obviously this is just a short list. There are many more options for these categories. For some protein options and suggestions, for example, cheese, chicken or tuna pouches, hard-boiled eggs, cottage cheese, these are all great sources of protein. And when paired with a complex carb or a fiber, such as popcorn, sliced fruit, veggie sticks, or whole grain crackers, this is an idea of what a balanced snack can look like. And obviously, depending on your taste preferences and what you have in your pantry or what you can get at the grocery store, these combinations can vary.
Alrighty, our next snack myth versus fact. Protein bars are the perfect healthy snack. You hear a lot about protein these days. I don't know about you guys, but my Instagram and Facebook is full of protein powder advertisements, all different brands, all different kinds. And while protein is great, the reality is that some protein bars can be a good option, but some are high in sugar and artificial ingredients and high in calories. And so it's important to read the labels so you know what you're eating. And you want to choose a bar that has minimal additives and is balanced in those macronutrients of carbs, fat, and protein to help make it a more balanced snack. Another way to make it another more balanced snack is to add a fruit or some fiber with it, because protein bars don't usually have a whole lot of fiber associated with them. So if you add a fruit or some whole grain bread, that's a great way to round it out and make it a whole balanced snack for you.
Okay, our next myth, and all of these myths kind of speak to each of the macronutrients we're talking about, protein, fat, and carbs. So this one speaks to carbohydrates, and a myth that we have heard in our education and experience becoming dietitians is that juicing is always a healthy snack. There's kind of like juicing cleanses or juicing crazes from time to time. And the truth is that juices can be very nutrient dense often, but they can often be high in sugar and calories, especially when there's not fiber. When you're juicing something and you're taking the fiber out of it, that's going to change the way that your body responds to it in your glucose response in your blood. And so it's important, again, to balance with fiber, and protein is also key. So if you're going to have some juice, balance that with a high protein or high fiber snack. And you're probably going to get sick of us saying balance, but we're going to say that a lot today. So here's our next one.
All right, and to move on to our last macronutrient is fat. A common myth that a lot of us may have heard before is that low-fat or fat-free snacks are always healthier. And of course, when we're talking about certain dairy options, it can be beneficial to choose some low-fat options depending on our nutrition or health goals. However, this doesn't always mean that they're healthier compared to other higher fat options. Since fat is a really important component in the texture and flavor of a lot of food products, when that is taken away, a lot of products have added sugar or other additives to compensate for that flavor loss and to help with the texture. So therefore, we're really looking for these healthy fats. And when we say healthy fats, we're referring to polyunsaturated, monounsaturated fats, as opposed to avoiding trans fat or saturated fat. So it's really important to look at the nutritional facts as a whole and see where the fat content is coming from. And these types of healthy fats provide satiety, they help us stay full, and they also provide lots of essential nutrients and help with micronutrient absorption as well.
Alrighty, a little more about the science of satiety. Protein is a great way to stay satiated because it reduces the levels of the hormone called ghrelin, which a great way to remember ghrelin is your stomach goes ghrelin when it's hungry. So that is the hormone that increases your hunger response and makes you just more hungry and wanting to eat more. And protein helps reduce that, which increases your satiety. And research shows that a high protein snack compared with a high carb or high fat snack led to greater satiety overall. Fiber slows digestion, and fiber is that complex carb we've been talking about. It slows digestion and adds bulk to meals and helps you feel fuller for longer by stabilizing blood sugar. And the one way it adds bulk is by volume. A lot of high fiber foods are fruits and vegetables, and they take up a lot of space in your stomach, which adds to that satiety. And healthy fats slow down digestion and trigger the release of hormones like cholecystokinin, and they signal fullness and keep hunger at bay.
Yeah, and like with fiber, I mean, you just think about it. If you're drinking some juice, how's that going to differ from like eating an orange, right? That's going to have a completely different effect on your body. And as that sugar from whatever you're eating enters into your digestive tract, when there's fiber there, your digestive tract has to first break down that fiber before that sugar can be extracted and absorbed across your intestine. So that fiber, just like Amber said, really helps slow it down and moderate that glucose response. So we're going to be talking about specific cravings, like I mentioned. I first want to hear from all of you about what kind of cravings are most common for you when you want a snack throughout the day. And you could just, shout them out, raise your hand. Cheese, okay, salty. Great, that's me too. Anybody else? Sweet. Yes, that's a common one. Chocolate. Awesome. Okay, perfect. We are going to talk about hopefully each of those today.
All right, so a lot of you had mentioned sweet cravings, and feel free to take pictures or write down some ideas. Again, this is just a small list. However, there are many more ideas of balanced snacks that can relate to each of these different cravings. But again, feel free to take pictures throughout our presentation as well. Some examples of some sweet cravings with avoiding a lot of added sugars are to incorporate, for example, fresh fruit. Fruit is sweet, and then when paired with a handful of nuts, that provides fat and protein, completes a balanced snack. Smoothie bowls are great, banana and almond butter, and for example, dark chocolate squares and a few almonds or walnuts. So again, these are a lot of sweet options that when paired with a protein or fat source, complete a balanced snack.
Another common craving is savory cravings. You mentioned a couple of those. And my favorite on this list is avocado and toast. I don't know if you've had it on some fresh sourdough or some whole grain bread that's been toasted. Delicious. And that's a great one because not only is it nutrient dense with the avocado and the whole grain bread, but it is also calorie dense, or because the fat in the avocado, and the complex carbohydrate. So that's a great one. We've also got some guacamole and whole grain chips is another great one. Baked zucchini chips, and Parmesan for that person who loves cheese. I love cheese too. And one of my favorites up here too is turkey roll-ups and cheese because that one's very portable. We see it in Lunchables for like advertised in the stores. There are many different kinds of packs like the Sargento with the nuts and cheese. They also have cheese and turkey or cheese and ham, and it's very portable and easy to take on the go with you.
Okay, salty. Somebody said that, and I love that because this is my favorite. I'm always craving something salty. So we have salted nuts, getting that protein, that fat. We have seaweed snacks. They have like different flavors, and those are pretty yummy. We have pita chips with spinach and artichoke dip. I find that delicious. Olives and pickles, and all of these can provide a balance of carbs, fat, and protein.
All right, and some crunchy cravings. We talked a little bit about fat and how it contributes to the texture of foods. Sometimes we're wanting something crunchy, just simply for the texture. So some examples of some crunchy cravings, or some crunchy foods that will satisfy your cravings are nuts like almonds or pistachios, kale chips, crunchy fresh bell pepper slices with ranch, Greek yogurt dip, or hummus. So again, these are a list of foods that are naturally crunchy and can help satisfy that craving.
Another craving I hear pretty often is creamy cravings. So those are things like oatmeal and Greek yogurt with fruit and berries. Silken tofu with honey and berries is a great way to get protein and carbohydrate while also getting that really sweet flavor in there. So this could go for both sweet and creamy cravings. Cottage cheese is a great one. It's really versatile. I love that one because you can put it with savory things. I've heard a lot of people put cottage cheese with tomato, but you can also put it with peaches or pineapple or on toast. That's a very versatile thing that can get you the complex carbohydrates with the good protein in the cottage cheese.
I personally, I cannot stand the texture of cottage cheese, but I found if I like blend it up and maybe add it to something, that's just a great way. So these are adaptable, as Amber said, and maybe not all of these will work with each of you, but we hope that there will be some good ideas. So the next one is spicy cravings. We have hot and spicy mixed nuts. We have jalapeno pepper popper type things, or the buffalo cauliflower bites. And these are kind of just recipes that there are tons of them online. And you can look at them and decide if they're what you're going for and if they're going to meet your needs with looking for balance. But I also love a lot of these suggestions because they're going to be lower in added sodium than a lot of highly processed packaged foods. Although those can be a great supplement as well.
And last but not least, we have chocolate cravings. A lot of us had mentioned before that we often decide we're wanting to snack on chocolate. And as shown here, there's lots of ways to incorporate that into a healthy snack. Some examples are chocolate covered nuts, chocolate drizzled strawberries or bananas, or trail mix with dark chocolate chips. I'm a big fan of dark chocolate, and so I have loved a lot of these different ideas. And again, with all of these ideas, this doesn't necessarily mean that certain chocolate or sweet cravings are bad or good. There's a way and there's a time and a place to incorporate ice cream and candy and other more of the highly processed foods that we talked about. So maybe just think of how you can incorporate or add nutrients into the foods that you already like as well.
Alrighty, our next snack, myth and fact. Myth, snacking leads to weight gain and spikes blood sugar. Fact, healthy snacking, when it's portion controlled and balanced, can actually help manage your hunger and prevent overeating and help support your weight loss goals. Like I mentioned a little earlier, when you're snacking throughout the day, you don't get that really intense hunger towards the end of the day or the middle of the day or whenever it hits you. You can avoid that really intense hunger that leads to overeating. And by planning your snacks and making sure they're balanced, you can support your goals, whether that's weight loss, weight maintenance, weight gain. Snacks can work in your diet to reach any goal you have.
So we've discussed balance extensively, and we now want to talk a bit more about portion control after this next myth and fact, which is it doesn't matter how much you eat as long as it's a healthy food. But the truth is that portion size still matters. Even with healthy foods, they can be very high in energy, like nuts on avocados or dried fruit. And so even with healthy foods, we want to look at portion control to avoid excessive calorie intake.
So we have a couple tips and tricks for all of you when deciding certain snacks. Again, it's important to remember that there are still portion guidelines. So for example, nuts and seeds are very energy dense, higher in calories. So the recommended portion size is about 1 ounce, which for all of you to visualize is about one small handful or about a fourth of a cup. For fruits, the portion size is about a medium fruit. And we know that, for example, apples can vary in size, whether we get them from Costco or a fruit stand or the grocery store. Some of them might be larger or smaller than others. But the general recommendation is about the size of a tennis ball or so when we're talking about fruits. Vegetables differ whether they are eaten raw or cooked. 1 cup of raw is equivalent to 1/2 of cooked vegetables when we're talking about portion sizes. And then with cheese, 1 ounce is the recommended portion for cheese, which is about the size of your thumb, the tip of your thumb. So as you're compiling your ingredients and food options for building a healthy snack, we can think about the size of our thumb is about 1 ounce of cheese. And since cheese can be really easy to eat a large quantity, sometimes it can be to reach this portion size to choose some of like a sharper cheese or a more flavorful cheese. So that way we can still be satisfied by not eating as much. For example, like a mild cheddar cheese compared to a sharp.
Some more portion tips are for chips or crackers, the portion is about 1 ounce or a handful. And with chips or crackers, I know I have this tendency, I'm sure other people in the audience do, but there tends to be more mindless eating with this kind of a food where you just have the bag next to you on your desk and you munch as you go. And so a great way to avoid or just be more aware of how much you're eating of this calorically dense food is to pour it into a bowl beforehand. Just pour your handful into a bowl, and that way you know how much you're aware of how much you're eating, and you avoid that mindless consumption. For peanut butter and nut butters, those are really popular. You just get a heaping spoonful and call it a great snack, which is awesome. But a heaping spoonful of peanut butter might be more than you expect it to be, calorie wise and nutrient wise. So one serving is about 2 tablespoons, or about the size of a ping pong ball. As for rice and pasta, it's about a 1/2 cup cooked is about the serving size, which is about the size of a light bulb. And I'm not talking about the light bulbs in the stadium or in the hallways. I'm talking about your average household light bulb that you'd find. So keep that in mind. And then for chocolate, a portion again is about 1 ounce or 2 squares of your average chocolate bar. And a tip, if chocolate is your weakness, dark chocolate may be more satiating and give you that sense of and satisfy that sweet craving without needing to eat the whole bar. It's a little easier to be aware of how much you're eating with that.
Okay, and another thing to talk about with portion size, we've discussed or referred to reading labels. So this is a great example of 2 labels that have very similar nutrition facts, but very different serving sizes. So on your left, this is a nutrition facts panel that I pulled from a popular potato chip brand. And then on the right, this is a popular popcorn brand. Both of them are processed foods. And so again, both of them can be incorporated into a healthy diet. But I want you to look at first the calories, 160 versus 150, very similar. We look at fat, 10 grams versus 8 grams, sodium, 170, 150, protein, 2 grams, 2 grams. So a lot of this is very similar nutrition wise. You're going to get about the same nutrients from this. But looking at the serving size at the top, this serving size is 15 potato chips. And I feel like I always eat way more than 15 potato chips if I'm ever just snacking on that. Whereas the serving size of this popcorn brand is 3.5 cups. And so I'm not saying like you can never have potato chips, but if you're really hungry and you're wanting some kind of salty, crunchy snack, the popcorn in this instance might be a better option just as you compare nutrition labels, because 3.5 cups is likely way more filling than 15 potato chips.
All right, so we have put together a few tips and tricks for all of you just to help making balanced snacks a greater part of your lifestyle. Our first tip is to prep in advance, to batch prepare snacks to reduce unhealthy choices. And obviously this does require some planning and time, but as we put that into our schedule with our meal planning and everything, if we we talked a lot about convenience. If something is easy to grab, if it's at eye level or on our desk, we're more likely to eat it. So therefore, if we meal prep our snacks, maybe cut up some fruits and vegetables, put it in Tupperware in the fridge, we're more likely to grab it and eat it if it's already prepared. Our second tip is to keep snacks balanced, as if we haven't said that enough, just to focus on pairing the protein sources with a fiber-rich food. Our third tip is to choose whole foods over the highly processed foods whenever possible. This will just, the majority of the time, they're a little bit more nutrient dense rather than the highly processed foods. The fourth tip that we have is to keep healthy snacks visible. I'm sure a lot of you have noticed if you're walking around the grocery store, most of the things we're going to buy or look at first are at eye level. So if we keep things in the fridge or in the pantry that are visible and easily accessible to us, we're more likely to eat them, rather than if they're tucked away in the pantry and hard to find. Our fifth and final tip is just to include snack ingredients as part of our meal plan or grocery list. If we don't include them on our grocery list and we don't have them in our pantry or our fridge, we are less likely to eat them. So just as you're planning your dinners and other meals throughout the week, maybe think about snacks as well and what you can buy to create some balanced snacks.
Alrighty, another myth and fact. Eating late night snacks is bad for your health. When in reality, it's not the time of the snack that matters, but the type and quantity. 200 calories at 9 a.m. is the same 200 calories at 10 p.m. They're all calories. Choosing a balanced snack at night can help curb that hunger and improve your sleep quality as long as it's not excessive. So just be mindful and be aware of what you're eating. Some days, maybe that bowl of ice cream is the perfect late night treat. Other days, maybe the carrots and hummus are the perfect late night treat. And the timing does not matter.
So we just want to tell you that planning will set you up for success. We did some research and we just looked at one research study that showed that by planning snacks and meal planning, the participants were more likely to consume 2 or more servings of fruit a day. As was mentioned, it's easier to get those fruits and vegetables and high nutrient dense foods that we know we should be eating. Maybe it's a lot to eat in one meal. So spreading them throughout the day, incorporating them as part of a snack is a really great option.
All right, and now we're going to do a quick demonstration. So for those of you who didn't see the recipe out front, today we're going to be demonstrating power balls or protein balls, as you might have heard online. And this is the list of ingredients. So Amber and I are going to pop down there and make them for you guys, and then Camille will be explaining a little bit about the process.
Yeah. So you can see the ingredients up here, but we want to emphasize that this is such an adaptable and flexible recipe. You don't have to follow it exactly. This is just kind of a demonstration to show you how we're trying to incorporate protein, fiber, and healthy fats. So we have peanut butter, a source of protein and fat, ground flaxseed, great source of fiber and also omega-3s. Type of fat, chia seeds, more fiber. We included some mini chocolate chips into this and some mini M&Ms just for Halloween, kind of make it a little seasonal. I've made these before by incorporating like pumpkin puree just to kind of make it like a pumpkin chocolate chip cookie kind of thing. It's not exactly like that, but we also have some honey and vanilla for that sweetness, and then unsweetened coconut flakes for more fiber and oatmeal for more fiber. So to make this, it is very complicated. You put all the ingredients in a bowl and you mix them together. So you just measure them out, and that's in your recipe handout. That's just how we made these ones. Again, you can change how you're going to measure it based on what your goals are and what kind of balance you're trying to achieve with this recipe. And then after you have mixed them together, as Amber and Kelly are doing, you're going to scoop them into 1 tablespoon, or I've done this where I roll them out into like a cookie sheet and then freeze them and cut them into like bars that I can take or package. So it's a more to-go snack. But we made them rolled them into balls and then froze them to help that honey and peanut butter kind of set up. They weren't too soft, and then they can be served fresh, or you can store these for 6 weeks. I think Kelly and I have both had them for longer than that, but we'll just put them in our freezer and then they're just there when you don't have time to grab something on the go. And then we just froze them for about 30 minutes and then took them out and had them in the fridge. So here's kind of the nutritional breakdown of this snack. We have 11.6 grams of carbohydrate. That might seem kind of high, but if you look, a lot of these are complex carbohydrates. And so it's not just the quantity that matters, but really the quality when we're looking at all these macronutrients. So we have really complex carbs from the chia seeds, the flax seeds, the oatmeal, and that's going to slow down the absorption of sugar in our digestive tract. Yeah, go ahead.
Serving size is just one ball.
Yeah, this is just for like one ball, they're pretty sizable. And also with that, that might seem kind of small volume wise for a snack. You can have multiple of them, and then we also encourage you could combine these like protein balls with fruit or with yogurt or something else so that there's more bulk in that snack. Then we have 5.5 grams of fats. You can see on the right side, the fat breakdown is a lot of it's coming from polyunsaturated and monounsaturated fat, those great beneficial fats we discussed earlier for heart health. And then we have 2.6 grams of protein. And if you're eating multiple of them, or if you're adjusting the recipe by adding more protein-rich sources, that can be an even higher amount. So here are some ideas for modifying this recipe. You could change if you don't like peanut butter or there's allergen concerns, you can change that for a different nut butter. You can add protein powder in to increase that protein even more. You can take out the like mini M&Ms or the chocolate chips that we did half and half of if you're wanting lower carbohydrate. And then you can add in dried fruits, nuts, or anything else. You can really get creative with this recipe. And yeah, again, just a demonstration of trying to hit all of those macronutrients, because so many of our snacks are just one macronutrient. They're like just high carb, or they're just really high fat. It's just like a really dense protein bar, but the more balanced it is, the more satiated and healthier it's going to be for us. So in conclusion, balanced snacks are a really important part of a healthy diet. And so we want to give you a couple minutes right now to write down some of your common snack choices that you make, and then an idea of how you can make it more balanced. And again, that doesn't have to be an overhaul of everything that you're eating or doing, just a simple change. If you're usually eating like a bag of chips or some candy, what can you add to that that's going to make it more balanced? And we just want to give you a second to do that right now.
And something I want to add real quick is look how fast that was. Snacking, creating snacks does not have to take a lot of time. Measuring out the ingredients is probably the longest part of this whole process. You dump, you mix, you go. It's awesome. So don't stress too much if you feel like a snack is too fast. Fast snacks are great.
Is there anyone, as you're writing these down or thinking about this, is there anyone that would be willing to share an idea that they've had or something that they want to try going forward?
Put it out on the pan, that recipe.
Mhm.
Mixing it and breaking it up and putting it in the ball.
Yeah, absolutely. And like a Greek yogurt or your favorite yogurt option, higher in protein, absolutely. It's a great idea. Yeah. Any other modifications or ideas you've had to make your snacks more balanced? Go ahead. Mhm. Yeah. I think granola often gets a bad rap as being like really high in sugar, but it just depends on how you're making it, really. And if it's mainly just that fiber and then maybe something like a little bit of sweetness, a lot of homemade granola can be a really great option to add to yogurts or smoothie bowls. Yes. Oh, yum. Like as a dip. Awesome. Like a really high protein dip. I love that. Great. Any other comments or any questions that you'd like to ask? Yeah.
Like, you know, like the popular bark that people do, like where they take the fruit and they like chop it up and use it with like yogurt and then they have like sometimes like peanut butter or something and then they like put chocolate over that and then they put that in the dessert.
Yeah, I think that can be a great option. I mean, no snack is going to be like perfect and you shouldn't only eat one snack, right? But that can be an awesome option. It's hitting all of those macronutrient balance categories that we've just talked about. So I think it's a great option. Do you guys have any thoughts about that? Or anything else?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of those videos and I think it's great.
Look really tasty.
Mhm. Yes.
Have your thoughts about snacking and intermittent fasting, in particular late night snacking?
Yeah, overall, we would support a diet that's going to be maintainable. A lot of people find that intermittent fasting is miserable. I mean, if it works for people, then I'm gonna, support what works for people when it's grounded in research. And there have been some good outcomes from intermittent fasting. But just a lot of people, it's very miserable for them and they don't end up sticking to it. And then it kind of just ends up, like Amber talked about, you're so hungry that when you finally eat, you're overeating, so just because you're not eating during a period of time doesn't necessarily mean that when you do eat, it's going to be very nutritious or balanced during that time. So I would caution people with intermittent fasting because I think it can lead to disappointment, frustration, or sometimes like disordered eating patterns. Any other questions? Yes.
Now, I was in a lecture here in this hall with another fellow, probably about the beginning of this year, and he was talking about metabolic health and the rise of like type 2 diabetes and stuff like that. And so, as I recall, and I'm probably distorting some of the things that he said, just memory being what it is, but it seemed like his argument was more that it was best to have your 3 square meals so that you were not just constantly spiking blood glucose.
Mm-hmm.
And so the question I have is, where is the healthy middle ground between what you guys are talking about and what he was talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the common standard American diet is the 3 meals, and then those snacks are not really what we've talked about today. Common, what we see in the research that they're studying is looking at people who are having heavily processed foods that are very high in sugar, very high in unhealthy fat. And those foods do spike blood sugar. We do know that, which is why when you're going to have a snack, I think the healthy middle ground is to provide the fiber and the fat that's going to reduce the portion size of that snack, and it's going to lower the blood glucose response to that snack. So if the option is between, I don't think the option has to be between like having 3 square meals a day with nothing in between, or having 3 square meals and like candy bars or chips or all these things in the middle. It can be 3 square meals, but then also some of these snacks that we've talked about that are higher in fiber, higher in fat, and therefore they're not going to have the same effect on blood glucose as the typical American snack is. It's an awesome question.
Yeah, and going along with that, those with type 2 diabetes, a lot of the recommendations are just consistent carbohydrates, right, to help that blood sugar spikes. So the whole goal of that is whether you eat 3 meals or maybe 6 small meals, is just to make sure that you're consistently spreading out your carbohydrates throughout the day instead of having a high carb breakfast, a low carb dinner, or vice versa. So as long as you're, again, pairing those carbohydrates with fat or protein, that will help moderate and help those blood glucose spikes throughout the day. So the quantity might not matter, but the grams and consistency of carbohydrate will matter.
Yeah. I think if you're keeping your carb intake really high throughout the day, that's hard on the pancreas producing insulin to combat that blood sugar. However, if it's also not good to have these big rises and dips. You're eating a huge carb breakfast and then you don't eat for 6 hours, and then you eat this huge carb lunch. Like, we want to have a moderate blood glucose within healthy levels. And by having big meals and then a lot of time in between, there's a lot more like rise and crashing, and that's not healthy either. So keeping it moderate is the best. Yes.
Another great, oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Another great way to say that is balance.
Yes. Go ahead. Oh yeah, that's kind of confusing. So mainly protein is important, and then fiber is important. And if it's going to be high in fat, we want it to be a healthier fat. So not all snacks have like healthy fats in them. So that's why we say like healthy fat is kind of a bonus. It's really looking at just trying to maybe get some from every macronutrient. The more you can get from every macronutrient group, the more balanced and healthy of a snack it's going to be. But sometimes you're only going to get like protein and fiber, right? Or you're only going to get like maybe some fiber and some healthy fat. And that's okay too. It's just we're really trying to avoid getting only one, only getting simple carbohydrates, only getting high protein, only getting like an unhealthy fat. We want to just get healthy amounts of all three macronutrients. Any other thoughts? Awesome. Well, thank you so much for letting us come today. We love talking to you, and we'd like to invite you to come up and try these Powerballs, and you're welcome to take a few of them.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.